Hi everyone, welcome back to day 3 of our Halloween countdown, and today we're going to look at the flooring. The floor and the ceiling are the same size, but in my version, if you'll remember, I'm going to do the lift off lid rather than the hinged back or front for this as a change from the Medieval Book Nook. If you managed to crack on and get your wallpaper designed yesterday, and if you were going to build the chimney breast, hopefully you'll have this now, and as you can see, it just slots in very easily and kind of stays there, but you can glue that in place. And I also carried on and did my side walls too, so you can see those. And I decided to paint my back wall. That bit I kind of was holding it and then had to move it, but we won't see that bit, so ignore that bit. I decided to paint my back wall rather than wallpaper it, to give that hint of when you have alcoves either side of a fireplace. So that's looking good. So when we come to the floor, I've put in the Halloween freebies page on the website the debossed flooring pattern, so you can have a go at that if you want to. If you've got the Medieval Book Nook, you'll already have the slate floor and the planked floor, which we also used as a ceiling, so feel free to use those. But I'm going to show you how to use the debossed floor SVG in craft board, and we can glue it straight down in one piece, so we don't even have to lay individual planks for this one. So here's my floor, and you can see there I've got all kinds of lines drawn, and I've got the outside edge are 2mm, and we know that's for the side wall and the back wall and the other side wall, because they all sit on top of the base piece. And I've got my window wall, if you'll remember, that was 2 inches in from the front. So when I'm going to measure up for my floor, I could then, once I've drawn all the lines where I don't want a floor, I just measured in between the lines, so I know that it's 15.4 centimetres wide, 17.5 centimetres long. You don't have to do that. You could just cut the debossed floor and in the size that it comes in, and then cut it to fit your base. It's kind of in person rather than measuring it first. That's up to you, but seeing as we can change the size of it, I think that's easier. So that's what we're going to do here. If you're doing the other version, it's almost the reverse of this. You'll have your window wall at the back with your silhouette trees, and then you'll have your sort of inside of your book nook, the room inside the cottage looking out through the window, so you won't need to leave a gap at the front here because the frame fits on the outside of those. So that's what we're going to concentrate on today. The ceiling, we're going to be doing the lift off version. I'll show you how to do that separately. If you're having a fixed ceiling, the only thing you really need to think about is if you're going to do something more than paint it, be careful that what you put on there, if you had, say, planks and grooves, when you're looking at the edge and when it goes onto the book nook, you might just see the edges. So I would do the same thing. I would leave the gap around the edge of the ceiling so that it kind of fits into the book nook if you've got any kind of planked ceiling effect, and leaves the edge there for gluing. I'm going to leave my ceiling plain because I'm going to be fixing my lights onto the ceiling, so we can easily lift it off to change out the batteries or switch the lights on and off. So that's different to the Medieval Book Nook again. So decide which version you're going to do if you haven't already, and then do the floor once you know where your walls are going. The other thing to take into consideration is if you're going to do the debossed floor and you've got the chimney breast, if you can imagine, the chimney breast will be sitting on top of the debossed floor, which will actually increase the height of the chimney breast, and then it will be slightly higher than the side walls. So we need to really kind of measure out where we're going to put our chimney breast and fit the floor around it. The way I'm going to do it is get my debossed floor cut first. I'm going to literally lay that on there. I'm going to put my chimney breast and hearth on it, draw around it, and then cut that out with an X-Acto knife. That's as complicated as it gets. If you're going to do a single planked floor, you would want to draw that now and fit all around it, but that's like a lot of hard work when we can do it the easy way. So we'll go to Design Space now. I'll show you how to change the debossed floor to fit the sizes of your floor plan here, and then we'll come back and I'll show you what it looks like afterwards. Okay, so here we are in Design Space, and we've got the debossed floor pattern. If you come over here, you'll see there's just 3 elements. There's the inch square, which we can hide now because we're not going to cut that. And we've got, it says cut because that's the way it's imported. We've got all these fine lines, which will be debossed. And then we've got the brown outer square, which represents your piece of craft board. I'm going to zoom out slightly here. So you might think, oh, well, obviously our Book Nook floor isn't square. So we could do it very easily. We unlock the ratio and we can just squish it. But you might think, oh, that makes the planks too close together. I'd like less planks but wider. So decide what you'd actually like your planks to look like. And then for me, I think I like the proportion of these planks, but I don't want to squish them in, so I need to make it narrower. So we're going to roughly do this first, and I know that the debossed floor measurements that I've got, I'll do it in inches. It was 15.4 centimetres wide, which is about 6 inches. So we're going to roughly slice this down to 6 inches. It's easier actually if you put it on a 10 there and then you know that 16 is there. So we're going to get a shape and a square, put it over here on the 6th line. This doesn't have to be too exact. And that's what I want to slice off of there. So we come over here and we select the brown one first, and then do shift and select the grey one and do slice. And you think, oh no, we've lost all of the debossed lines, but they're just hidden behind. So we can take this one out of the way and delete it, and that one, and that one. And now we've got the, let me just put that to the back. Oh, that'll only come forwards. We've got these debossing lines we want to also slice out, and that's one of the things in Design Space, or certainly in my version, I only seem to be able to slice one thing at a time. If you try to select them all, they don't allow you to slice it. So again, we go on the 6-inch line and unlock that and bring it down. This time we select the debossing lines, although it says cut, they're the lines we want to deboss. Shift and select the rectangle again and do slice. It'll take a while because there's a lot of lines to cut through, so don't worry about that, just let it do its thing. So again, we select and go back through and then delete. It's thinking about it now, it's going to take a while to delete all those cut lines or debossing lines, so just let it do its thing a minute. Okay, so if we go around that now, you can see that there are sort of 2 elements to that. If we group those, move them over there, this is a weird ghostly thing in the background now. That doesn't even exist. If we click make it, it's just got the 2 things. We haven't attached them yet, so if you have a little quirk like that, see it's disappeared now, don't panic. So we've got this, both of them selected, and I'm just going to attach them first. Doesn't matter which order you do this in, but if we click on the cut one now, we can go and change that to deboss. It makes the lines look thicker, but that's just to indicate it's debossing rather than cutting. So now we look at the whole thing and we can see the measurements here, 6 inches wide by 10.5. I'm going to go over to settings because I find that I can work more accurately in centimeters and millimeters. So I'm changing it to metric, and it's telling me here that it's 15 centimeters wide by 26 long. And I know that I want 15.4 wide, so we can type that over. Hardly changes it much because we were pretty near with that. And it's a bit long at the moment. So I could get this and squash it that way. So if I changed it to the measurement I need, which is 17.5, I'll unlock the ratio now. That doesn't look too bad, but it might be squashed up slightly. Let's change it back to cut. Sometimes it's easier to see it as a cut line and think, what do we think about that? Do I think that these lines are too close together? Or no, I think that looks okay actually. So if we click on that, we can see now we've got it exactly. No, I needed it wider, didn't I? I needed it 15.4 wide. I don't know how that moved. So that's a nice planked floor. But again, if you found that you didn't want to just squish it, you could just slice the bottom off the same. It seems quite long-winded, but it helps you maintain the proportion of those planks and all the little grooves in there. So that's how we would do that. They are attached. So now when we hit make it, it will put exactly what we need on the cutting mat, and that will fit onto our book nook exactly. So I'll go and do that now, and then I'll see you back in the studio. Okay, here it is, fresh off the Cricut machine, and you can see all those lovely lines in there. And I forgot to warn you, it does take a while. It has to go up and down and deboss all of these, but I think it's worth it. You can feel it as well as see it, so it's quite convincing. I did this in a wood colour, because really that will become your, not your grout lines, but if they were tiles, the grooves. And if you imagine, I'm going to do a black effect painted floor. As that wears off over the years, you would start to see the natural wood coming through, but you could do whatever colour craft board you want underneath. So you could do white and go for whitewashed floorboards, or you could do black and then use a different highlight over the top. So this is what I've done. I'm going to put a photo up now of how it looks once you've given it a dry brush of black and brown I did, and you can see how then it really, the underlying craft board colour comes through and gives it a really nice effect. And then you can just rub it down and age it and add more paint if you want to. So that's what I'm going to do with this. And if you remember, because this is quite a new mat and sticky, just do it that way so that you don't end up with a curled piece of craft board. You can see how sticky this is. But it's better to do it this way, and it stops your craft board curling up. And just need to release it a little bit in that corner. And there it is. So that will fit pretty much within my lines. You can see there. It's a little bit, I'd say, just slightly, not quite as narrow as I would like. So I will trim just a millimetre off of that side by hand. And there is a tolerance with the Cricut. You will get, sometimes it'll over or undercut by a slight amount. So at least there, it's nearly how we want it. And then what I will do is I want to get the footprint, I don't even need to do this on there really, of the chimney breast and hearth if you're going to have one, and line that up at the back, and then simply I'll make sure you've got it centered and measure it if you want to get it dead center. Draw round that, cut that out with the X-Acto knife, and then this will fit down and not lift this up by the thickness of the craft board. And it's very thin, but what we don't want is not being able to put the ceiling on, because everything kind of fits inside the side walls. So you could trim that off as well if you found it easier. Plonk that on top and trim it off. And it also, you'll need to think whether you want to leave this removable or not too. So I'm going to do that now. I'll do the paint effect like I showed in the photograph. I'll glue it on to my floor, and then tomorrow we're going to fit the window. So make sure you've got your window wall decorated. I'm decorating the outside of mine. I could decorate the inside, but you're never going to see it when you're looking through the Book Nook. When you look down on top you might do. So not only do we need to decorate the window wall, we need to have, if you remember from day one, or day two, the decorating, the window reveals also painted in a complementary colour, or in papered if you're going to paper it and it's the inside looking out. So make sure you've done that before you glue it. You can paint them afterwards, it's just I find it fiddlier, so I like to do everything beforehand. So that's what we're doing tomorrow, and again you could easily put that on your ceiling or paint your ceiling. It's the same process. So hopefully you followed that. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a fabulous evening.